Ona Judge saw a chance to gain her freedom. She took it. On May 21st, 1796, she escaped from George Washington and fled to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Ona was born into slavery, and at the age of 10, was Martha Washington's assistant. In fact, Martha Washington had already planned for her granddaughter, Elizabeth Custis, to take ownership of Judge after she passed away. When Ona learned about this, she knew she had to go. Because you see, the Washingtons had already denied her freedom once before. When Washington was elected president, the nation's capital was in New York. And after his election, he, his family, and his slaves all moved with him to New York. When the capital was moved to Pennsylvania, they all moved there with him too. And it was in Pennsylvania that Judge first came into contact with free African Americans. Because Pennsylvania had this thing called the Gradual Abolition Act, which stated that slaves that came into the state and stayed there for 6 consecutive months had to automatically be freed. But Washington got around that law. Because every time the 6-month mark would come up, he would send the slaves back to Mount Vernon under the guise of visiting family, every time denying Judge her freedom. So, on May 21st, while preparing for yet another trip back to Mount Vernon, she fled the residence while the family was eating dinner. She boarded a boat named Nancy and fled to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And while she was there, she learned how to read, how to write, got married, and embraced Christianity. Ona was free, but she wasn't in the clear. Because while she was in Portsmouth, she was spotted by one of the Washington's family friends, Elizabeth Langdon, who then went and reported her location to Washington. Washington was furious and tried to send his men after Judge. But the Fugitive Slave Act required that Washington show proof that he owned Ona before he could go and do that. At first, Ona tried to negotiate with the Washingtons, saying that she would return if they could promise that upon their deaths, that she would become a free woman. When the Washingtons refused that, Ona decided to stay in New Hampshire. But, unfortunately for her, she still wasn't in the clear. Washington would then tap Martha's nephew, Burrow Bassett Jr., to go and retrieve Ona by force. At first, he tried to negotiate with her, but Ona, at this time having been married and having already had a child, wasn't going for it. So, Burrow told the Langdons he intended to kidnap both Ona and her daughter and take them both back to Washington. The Langdons, realizing how crazy this plan was, warned Ona about what he was planning to do, and that's when she and her family fled to Greenland, New Hampshire, where she lived for the rest of her life. As a fugitive slave, she lived in near poverty conditions. But when an abolitionist newspaper, the Grand Freeman, after she regretted her decision, she said, "No, I am free."